In this video, we're going to be replacing the tie rod end on this 2005 Honda Element. To remove our wheel, it's going to be a 19mm socket. I'll take our wheel off now. Our tie rod, we're going to start by taking off our cotter pin. Just going to push it back and push it back and out through. And we will not be reusing this. Okay, and our nut here is going to be a 19mm. We're going to try an impact, see if we can shock that out. There we go. So now that we have our nut removed, we're looking to remove this, our tie rod end. We're going to have to knock it up and out of our strut bracket here. So we're just going to use a hammer. And we can now swing this out of the way, and we can start to remove our end. Now we're going to remove our tie rod end. We're going to need to back up the inner tie rod from spinning. So we're going to do that with a 14mm wrench. And then we're going to get on our actual tie rod itself. We're going to try and use a crow's foot, the 19mm, and see if we can actually get our tie rod to spin. Let's try that now. I'm just going to reset our 14 in the back, get a little bit more spin here. All right, it looks like our tie rod end is free. So what we want to do at this point is spin it back to basically the locked position. Okay? And now we're going to count our rotations out, full rotations. When we count our rotations out, we're going to put in the new tie rod end at the same rotations in. So I have 8 turns on the way out. Now you also have, with this one, a lock nut. Sometimes the lock nuts will move. This one's actually pretty well corroded and rusted in place. So I don't always trust the lock nut. So we're going to count 8 turns on the way in. Okay, we're going to take our new tie rod end. We're going to actually prop everything up and way out of the way. So we're going to start our thread. We're going to count our turns in. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 turns. And we're pretty much right there, right up against our lock nut. Okay, so what we're going to do is just make sure that the stem of this ball joint in our tie rod end is straight in its travel. We're going to line that up. And thread on our nut. Now this nut does not have a cotter pin. It is a nylon lock nut. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our 14mm and back up our inner tie rod and our 19 on our crow's foot and our extension. Okay, what we're going to do is just take this out of our strut and tighten this down. All right, so right now everything's spinning, the inner and the outer. So we're not changing the amount of turns just yet. Just trying to line up to a point where we can get it to stop spinning. What we're going to do here is just snug up our nut. This will hold our ball joint a little bit more in position. Okay. Now we're going to tighten up our lock nut or our jam nut up to the tie rod. Okay, so we're going to take our 14 millimeter. We're going to back up our inner tie rod from spinning. Just going to preset that. And a 24 millimeter on our lock nut. We're going to tighten that up to the actual outer tie rod. Okay. And now we can continue to tighten down our tie rod end to the strut. Now to tighten our nut down to our strut, we're going to use a 19 millimeter. I'm actually going to use a wrench to start. What I'm looking for, and I'm going to keep my finger on the bottom, is to see if that inner part of the inner stud of the ball joint spins. If it does, then I'm going to have to lock it down. This one's an Allen on the center here. So we're just going to tighten this down until it's snug. All right, right about there, we're getting some good resistance. That's snug. We'll come back and torque this down. Now we're going to torque this nut down to 32 foot-pounds. Okay, so now we can install our wheel. Sometimes when I'm having an issue centering or getting the wheel on nice and flat, I like to do a top nice and tight, push in, do a bottom nice and tight, and then rock back and forth till I get those two nice and tight. And that usually helps me get a wheel nice and flat. All right, now we can do the other ones. Come in here with our 19 millimeter. Just snug these up. All right, now to torque these down, we're going to have to put the vehicle on the ground so the wheel doesn't spin. Now that our vehicle's on the ground, we're going to torque our lug nuts down to 80 foot-pounds. We're going to do it in a crisscross pattern. After finishing this installation, it's important to have an alignment done on your vehicle. And then sometimes, if you really feel the need to, you can run around a second time just to make sure. And that's it.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.